Picture this: a rainy night in Seattle, a family dinner dripping with secrets, and a single sentence that shattered everything I'd built. The house is theirs, not yours. What would you do if the people you sacrificed everything for stabbed you in the back with a smile? I'm Emily, and this is the story of how I lost my family but found myself. Stick around to see how it unfolds. Hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subs. I promise you won't regret it. The rain tapped a steady rhythm against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Emily Carter's downtown Seattle apartment. From her 15th floor balcony, the city stretched out in a blur of gray and neon, the Space Needle piercing the clouds like a defiant middle finger to the dreary weather. Emily stood there, barefoot, cradling a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, her one indulgence after a brutal week at Cascade Construction. At 36, she'd carved out a life she was proud of. Senior project manager, a corner office with her name on the door, and this apartment. Small, but hers, with a view of Puget Sound that made the $2,500 monthly rent feel worth it. On clear days, Mount Rainier loomed in the distance, a quiet reminder of the world beyond deadlines and concrete pours. She took a sip, letting the wine warm her throat, and muttered to herself, "I built this life from scratch, so why do I still feel like something's missing? It wasn't the job. She thrived on chaos. Just last month, she'd stood in the pouring rain at a job site, barking orders over the roar of machinery to get a medical center finished before the client's deadline. Her team grumbled, but Emily loved it. The adrenaline, the problem solving, the moment when blueprints turned into something real. No, the emptiness wasn't work. It was deeper, older, tangled up in memories she'd rather forget. Her phone buzzed on the glass coffee table inside, cutting through the soft hum of the rain. Emily sighed, padding back into the living room. Dark hardwood floors, a sleek gray couch, a single framed photo of her family on the mantel. She glanced at it as she picked up the phone. Her at 18, stiff and awkward in a graduation gown, standing a foot apart from her parents, Tom and Linda, while her twin siblings, Ethan and Chloe, clung to them like koalas. 12 years younger, they'd always been the golden kids, showered with toys, excuses, and second chances, while Emily scrubbed dishes to pay for community college. Mom flashed on the screen. Emily hesitated, then swiped to answer, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder as she topped off her glass. "Hey, Mom." "Emily, honey." Linda's voice was syrupy, the kind of forced cheerfulness that set off alarm bells. "How's my favorite daughter doing?" Emily smirked, leaning against the counter. "I'm your only daughter, Mom. What's up?" Linda hadn't called her honey since that time she'd begged for $1,000 to fix the minivan. Money Emily never saw back. "Oh, nothing much," Linda chirped, too casual. "Just wanted to hear your voice." "Hey, listen, your dad and I are having a little family dinner this Saturday. Ethan and Chloe will be here, and we'd love for you to come. I'm making that potato casserole you adore, the one with the crispy breadcrumb topping. You're not too busy, are you?" Emily's stomach growled at the mention of the casserole, her childhood comfort food, layers of creamy potatoes and melted cheddar that Linda only broke out for special occasions. But the timing felt off. Between her 60-hour work weeks and her parents' packed retirement schedule, golf for Tom, community potlucks for Linda, they barely saw each other outside Thanksgiving. And family dinner with the twins? Ethan, 24, still lived in a condo their parents subsidized, hopping between dead-end jobs. Chloe, his mirror image, flitted from one passion project to the next. Last month it was vegan cupcakes. This month, who knew? The last time Emily saw them, Chloe had bragged about her new Prada bag while Ethan scrolled X on his phone, ignoring her entirely. "I'll check my schedule," Emily said, stalling. "What's the occasion?" Linda paused, a beat too long. "Oh, just catching up. We miss you, that's all. Say you'll come, okay? 6 o'clock sharp." "Fine, I'll be there," Emily relented, already picturing the casserole. "See you Saturday." "Perfect, love you, honey." Linda hung up before Emily could respond. She set the phone down, frowning. Linda hadn't asked about her life, her promotion, her latest project, nothing. That wasn't new, but it still stung, a quiet ache she'd learned to bury. She wandered back to the balcony, the rain heavier now, streaking the glass like tears. Saturday with the family. It had been months since she'd driven out to their split-level house in Renton. A 40-minute trek through traffic and guilt trips. Growing up, she'd been the responsible one. Laundry at 12, babysitting the twins at 14, while Tom and Linda sipped margaritas at the country club. By 18, she'd moved out, juggling night classes and waitressing shifts while the twins got new Nikes and PlayStations. Their parenting had flipped a switch after her. Strict with Emily, indulgent with them. She swirled the wine in her glass, staring at the city lights. Ethan and Chloe were adults now, technically, but still acted like spoiled teens. Last year, Ethan had crashed his Toyota and texted her, "Sis, need $5 K for a new ride, help me out." She'd sent it, no questions asked. Chloe had begged for $3,000 to launch her brand on Instagram, some skincare line that never materialized, and then there was the house. 4 years ago, when Tom and Linda downsized, they'd begged her to chip in for the mortgage. Just $2,000 a month, they'd said, until we get back on our feet. She'd agreed, wiring the money every 15th like clockwork, plus $500 extra for utilities. It added up. Fast. Emily drained her glass, the buzz settling in. She didn't mind helping. Family was family, right? But that call, Linda's tone, the sudden dinner invite, the twins involved, it felt like a setup. She grabbed her laptop, pulling up her bank app. The latest transfer had cleared, $2,500 to Carter household. She scrolled back, $30,000 over the past year alone. For what? A house she hadn't lived in since high school? A cabin in Tahoe she'd spent $50,000 renovating, only to visit once? She slammed the laptop shut, her reflection staring back from the dark screen. "What are they up to?" she whispered. The rain answered with a low rumble, thunder rolling in from the sound. Saturday loomed like a storm cloud. Warm casserole on the table, cold secrets underneath. She poured another glass, her gut twisting. "If you were me," she said to the empty room, "what would you think a cozy family dinner could hide?" "I've got a bad feeling about this." The rain kept falling, and Emily stood there, wondering what she'd walk into. The drive from Seattle to Renton was a soggy blur of windshield wipers and taillights, the Saturday rain relentless as Emily navigated I-5 south. The radio crackled with Sweet Home Alabama, but she turned it off halfway through, letting the hum of tires on wet asphalt fill the silence. Her silver Honda Civic smelled faintly of coffee and blueprints. A mobile office for a woman who lived by deadlines. She glanced at the dashboard clock, 5:55 p.m., right on time. Punctuality was her thing, even when she'd rather be anywhere else. The Carter house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, a beige split level with a sagging porch and a welcome mat that hadn't been true for years. Ethan's beat-up Jeep was parked crookedly in the driveway. Chloe's neon pink Mini Cooper nosed up beside it. Emily pulled in behind them, her headlights catching the rain-slicked windows. Laughter spilled out as she approached the front door. High-pitched, conspiratorial, stopping dead when she rang the bell. Linda answered, apron tied tight, her smile as stiff as cardboard. "Emily, come in, come in." She pulled her into a quick hug, garlic and floral perfume clinging to her like a shield. Inside, the house smelled like childhood, potato casserole, baking, wood polish, a hint of Tom's Old Spice. Ethan and Chloe lounged on the plaid couch, heads bent together over Chloe's phone. They looked up in unison, Ethan's dark hair flopping over one eye, Chloe twirling a blonde strand, both flashing grins that didn't reach their eyes. "Hey, Em," Chloe said, her voice syrupy. "Nice blazer." Straight from the office, it was Saturday, but Emily let it slide, nodding. "Hey guys, Ethan, you good?" He waved lazily, not bothering to stand. "Yeah, whatever." The dining room table was set with the good china, white with gold trim, reserved for holidays. Emily raised an eyebrow as she slid into her old seat. "Fancy plates, huh?" This some kind of celebration? Linda and Tom exchanged a glance, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. Just felt like making it special, Linda said, bustling to the kitchen. Tom cleared his throat, adjusting his golf polo. How's work, kiddo? He asked. But his eyes darted to the twins before she could answer. Dinner unfolded in a haze of small talk. Linda rambled about her book club's latest pick, some romance novel Emily hadn't read. Tom grumbled about a new driver he'd bought that didn't hit worth a damn. Ethan bragged about his latest ex-followers. Chloe dished dirt on a friend who'd totally ghosted her. No one asked about Emily's life, not her promotion, not the medical center she'd just finished, nothing. The casserole hit the table, steaming and golden, and she dug in, savoring the creamy potatoes. It was perfect, but the taste soured with every forced laugh, every sidelong glance she caught between her parents and the twins. Dessert came, apple pie, another favorite, and the air shifted. Linda's hands shook as she sliced it, crumbs scattering across the tablecloth. Emily set her fork down, her patience fraying. Okay, enough. You're all acting weird and this pie's too good to be random. What's going on? The room went still, forks clinking against plates. Tom wiped his mouth with a napkin, slow and deliberate. We've been thinking about the future. You know, we're not getting any younger. Linda jumped in, her voice tight. We've finalized our will, honey. Wanted to tell you in person. Emily nodded, waiting. Tom leaned forward, hands clasped. The house and the Tahoe cabin, they're going to Ethan and Chloe. Silence swallowed the room. Emily blinked, her fork halfway to her mouth. And, she prompted, voice flat. Linda's smile faltered. That's it. You're doing so well, Em. The twins, they need the security more. Across the table, Ethan smirked, leaning back in his chair. Chloe bit her lip, failing to hide a grin. Emily's stomach twisted, pie turning to lead in her mouth. Let me get this straight, she said, slow and deliberate. The house I've been paying the mortgage on for 4 years, $2,000 a month, every month, and the cabin I dropped $50,000 to fix after that storm, that's all theirs? Linda flushed, eyes dropping to her plate. Now, Emily, family helps family. You know that. Family helps family, Emily echoed, her voice rising. Like when I sent Ethan $5,000 for that Jeep out there? Or when I paid $3,000 for Chloe's skincare business that never happened? Or the $500 I send you every month for bills? Tom shifted uncomfortably, but the twins didn't flinch. Ethan leaned forward, smirking wider. We just wanted you to know now, so there's no drama later. It's all ours. Emily's face burned, her chair scraping as she pushed it back. No drama? I've poured over $100,000 into this family. College loans for you two, repairs, mortgage payments, and you're sitting there grinning like I'm the hired help? Chloe snorted, twirling her hair. Don't be so dramatic, Em. You've always been jealous Mom and Dad love us more. Ethan nodded. Yeah, you've been pissed since we were kids because you had to play babysitter while we got to live a little. She stared at her parents, waiting for them to say something. Anything. Linda's face hardened. You should be ashamed, Emily, bringing up money like this. Your siblings are struggling in this economy. Struggling? Emily snapped. They can't hold jobs because you've never made them. I was working 2 shifts at 16 while they got iPads for Christmas. Tom stood, voice sharp. That's enough. Leave, Emily. Come back when you can talk like an adult. The twins smirked in unison. Ethan muttering, See, sis. Chloe adding, Don't trip on the way out. Emily grabbed her jacket, hands shaking, and stormed to the door. You think this is over? She said, turning back. Think again. The rain hit her like a slap as she climbed into her car, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. She gripped the wheel, knuckles white, and whispered, If you were me, what would you do when your family stabs you in the back over pie? I know what I'm choosing. The rain chased Emily all the way back to Seattle, a relentless drumbeat against her windshield as she sped up I-5. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles glowed white in the dashboard light, the argument replaying in her head like a bad movie on loop. The house and the Tahoe cabin, they're going to Ethan and Chloe. Her dad's words, calm as if he'd just ordered pizza, burned worse than Chloe's smug. Don't be so dramatic. By the time she pulled into her apartment garage, the clock read 8:17 p.m., but it felt like midnight. Dark, heavy, endless. She kicked off her boots in the entryway, the thud echoing off the hardwood. You're such an idiot, Emily, she muttered, tossing her soaked jacket over a chair. A complete and utter fool. The living room was quiet, the city lights beyond her balcony shimmering through the rain-streaked glass. She went straight for the wine rack, bypassing the cheap Pinot she kept for cooking and grabbing the $60 Cabernet she'd been saving for a promotion celebration. Well, she said, popping the cork, finding out your family's been bleeding you dry feels special enough. She poured a generous glass, the red liquid swirling like blood, and sank onto the couch. Her laptop sat on the coffee table, a silent witness to her unraveling. Memories flooded in. Every check, every emergency, every time she'd said yes because family helps family. 4 years ago, when Tom and Linda bought the Renton house, they'd sat her down with teary eyes. We can't swing the mortgage on our pensions, Linda had said. Just $2,000 a month, Em, until we're steady. She'd agreed, wiring it religiously, plus $500 extra for utilities. $30,000 a year, over $120,000 total. Then there was Ethan's Jeep, $5,000 after he'd wrapped his Toyota around a pole. Chloe's business, $3,000 for an Instagram flop. The Tahoe cabin's new roof, $50,000 after a storm she'd never even enjoyed. Emily took a long sip, the math clawing at her. Over $175,000, she said aloud, voice cracking. And for what? To be cut out over pie? She opened her laptop, the screen glowing harsh against the dim room, her bank app loaded. Scheduled transfers stared back. $2,000 to Carter Mortgage on the 15th, $500 to parents' expenses on the 1st. Her finger hovered over the cancel button, heart pounding. They don't deserve this, she whispered. Click, click. Both gone. She slammed the laptop shut, drained her glass, and stood. That's it. I'm done being their ATM. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the clouds, a rare break in Seattle's gloom. Emily woke lighter, the weight of those payments lifted like a fog. She brewed coffee, the rich smell filling her kitchen, and checked her phone. No calls, no texts. Good, she thought. Let them figure it out. She spent the day burying herself in work. Emails, blueprints, a call with a client about a new office tower. For once, her paycheck was hers. $6,500 a month after taxes, no longer carved up for Renton's electric bill or Ethan's gas money. She opened a travel site, browsing flights to Alaska. Maybe I'll finally take that trip, she mused. The peace lasted 2 weeks. On day 14, her phone buzzed mid-meeting, a text from Linda, M, mortgage due today, $500 for bills by Friday, electric sky high. Don't forget. Emily stared, jaw tight. Are you kidding me? She muttered, excusing herself to the hallway. After everything, the will, the insults, they still expected her to pay? She typed back, fingers flying. I'm not sending another dime. I've got no stake in a house you've given away. Make other plans. Send. She silenced her phone, heart racing, and returned to her meeting, forcing a smile. 15 minutes later, it rang. Linda? Emily took a deep breath and answered. How dare you? Her mom shrieked. No hello, no pause. You can't just cut us off like this. What are we supposed to do? Emily kept her voice steady, cold. Hi, Mom. And yes, I can. I've been helping out of love, not obligation. But after that dinner, I'm done. Linda huffed, incredulous. This is about the will, isn't it? You're so greedy, Emily. We raised you better. No, Emily cut in. This is about respect. I've bankrolled you for years, $175,000, Mom, and you thanked me by cutting me out and letting Chloe call me jealous. I'm not your piggy bank. Linda gasped. You can't do this. The bank's threatening foreclosure. Emily's resolve hardened. That's your problem now. Figure it out. She hung up, hands trembling as calls flooded in. Tom, Ethan, Chloe, one after another. She let them pile up, voicemail notifications blinking like warning lights. By evening, she listened. Tom's voice pleading, Em, please, we'll lose the house without you. Ethan snarling, you selfish jerk, Mom's crying because of you. Chloe, shrill, hope you're happy, ruining us. 2 days of this? Tears, insults, guilt trips, until Emily blocked them all. I need peace, she told herself, pouring another coffee. But the family wasn't done. Her Aunt Karen called next, voice soft, and your mom says you're abandoning them. What's happening? Emily sighed, explaining. The will, the dinner, the $175,000 she'd funneled into a family that didn't care. Karen sounded stunned. They said you only helped with the down payment. Every mortgage payment for 4 years, Emily corrected. Ask them. Karen promised to dig deeper, but Emily knew the truth wouldn't change minds. Not theirs. She leaned against her balcony railing, the city humming below. If you were me, she said to the air, would you keep bailing out a family that betrayed you? I'm choosing me for once. What would you do? Emily's phone stayed silent for a week after she blocked her family. A blissful stretch of quiet she hadn't felt in years. Seattle's rain softened to a drizzle and she threw herself into work, overseeing a new office tower project downtown. The extra $2,500 a month, money once siphoned off to Renton, sat in her savings, a growing cushion she eyed for that Alaska trip. She'd even started sketching out a budget on her laptop, dreaming of glaciers and midnight sun. This is what freedom feels like, she thought, sipping coffee on her balcony one Tuesday morning. The peace shattered Wednesday. Her boss tapped her for a quick trip to Portland. 3 days to handle final inspections on a retail complex Cascade Construction had just finished. You're the best for this, Em, he said. Out Wednesday, back Friday night. She packed light. A carry-on with jeans, her laptop, and a blazer for the client walkthrough. The trip went smoothly. Inspections passed with minor notes. The client shook her hand with a grin, and she treated herself to a salmon dinner at a riverside spot the hotel concierge swore by. By Friday, she was on a 6 p.m. flight home, landing at SeaTac just after 7:30. Exhausted but satisfied, she drove back to her apartment, ready for a weekend of nothing but Netflix and wine. She noticed it from the hallway, something off about her door. The closer she got, the worse it looked. The entire frame was sealed with industrial duct tape, layers of it crisscrossing the lock and hinges, and red spray paint scrawled selfish in jagged letters across the wood. Her suitcase hit the floor with a thud. What the hell? She muttered, running her fingers over the tape. It was tight, unyielding, no chance of prying it loose. Her key dangled uselessly in her hand. She stepped back, heart pounding, and snapped a photo with her phone. This isn't random, she said aloud. This is personal. She called the building's emergency maintenance line, voicemail. The manager, Greg, picked up on the 5th ring, groggy. Yeah, Emily, what's up? Someone taped my door shut and spray painted it, she said, voice shaking but firm. I can't get in. A pause. That's weird. I'll call a locksmith, but it's Friday night. Might take a couple hours. She slumped against the wall, staring at the mess. 3 hours later, a locksmith arrived, yawning, tools clinking in his bag. He whistled low. Whoever did this didn't want you inside. Gonna need to cut it all off. $300 job minimum. By midnight, he'd sliced through enough tape to jimmy the lock, and Emily stumbled into her apartment, fury simmering under her exhaustion. She dropped her bag and booted up her laptop. 6 months ago, after a package theft, she'd installed a hallway security camera, discreet, motion-activated, uploading to a cloud server. She pulled up the footage, scrolling to Thursday afternoon. At 2:14 p.m., a figure appeared, hoodie up, baseball cap low, but the slouchy walk was unmistakable. Ethan, her brother. He glanced around, pulled a roll of duct tape and a can of spray paint from his backpack, and went to work. taping methodically, then shaking the can to tag her door with that word, selfish. He stepped back, smirked at his handiwork, and bolted. Emily watched it 3 times, her blood boiling. "You little punk," she hissed. "This isn't a prank. This is a crime." Saturday morning, she marched to the Seattle PD precinct with the video on a USB drive. The officer, a tired woman with a buzz cut, took her statement. "Any idea why he'd do this?" she asked, pen poised. "Money," Emily said simply. "Family stuff." She didn't want to unpack the whole saga, not yet. The officer nodded, watching the footage, clear as day. "We'll bring him in." By Monday, she got the call. Ethan had denied it until they showed him the video, then caved. "Criminal mischief and vandalism," the officer said. "Repair costs push it past petty. Could mean fines, maybe probation." Emily felt a grim satisfaction, but it didn't last. Her phone rang minutes later. Tom, his voice trembling. "Emily, what have you done?" "They hauled Ethan in like some thug. Your own brother." "He vandalized my home, Dad," she shot back. "He's 24, not a kid, and it's costing me $1,200 to fix. The whole door's trashed." Tom's tone shifted, low and desperate. He was upset. "We all are. What do we do to make this go away?" "Pay for it," she said without hesitation. $1,200 and I'll drop the complaint." "That's blackmail," he snapped. "No," she corrected. "That's consequences. He can pay me or the courts. His call." He hung up, silence ringing in her ears. The next day, Linda called, her voice ice cold. "I never thought you'd stoop this low, using cops to hurt us. Ethan's a wreck." "He wrecked my door, Mom," Emily said. "You've been struggling since I stopped the money. Foreclosure's looming. That's not an excuse." Linda paused. "Pay the $1,200 and you'll drop it?" "Yes." "Fine." She spat. "We'll send it. But don't expect anything from us, ever again." Emily almost laughed, irony thicker than the rain outside. "That was clear at dinner, Mom." 2 days later, $1,200 hit her account. She called the precinct, withdrawing the complaint. The officer sighed. "Family's messy, huh?" "You have no idea," Emily replied. She hired a contractor to replace the door. $1,200 covered it, barely, and added a deadbolt just in case. Standing in her hallway, she stared at the new wood, the paint fumes sharp. "When family turns on you," she said to the empty space, "do you fight back with the law or let it slide? I chose justice. What would you pick?" 6 months had passed since Emily last spoke to her family, and Seattle felt like a new city. Or maybe she was the one who'd changed. The rain still fell, a constant companion, but it didn't weigh her down anymore. With the $1,200 from her parents in hand, she'd replaced her vandalized door, adding a sleek deadbolt and a second security camera for good measure. The building manager, Greg, had nodded approvingly. "Smart move," he'd said. "You never know." She didn't argue. Trust was a luxury she'd stopped affording the Carters. Life without their demands was a revelation. That $2,500 a month, once funneled to Renton, now fueled her own dreams. 2 months after the door incident, she'd booked that Alaska trip. A week in Juneau, hiking through misty forests and watching whales breach under a midnight sun that never fully set. She'd stood on a glacier, ice crunching under her boots, and whispered, "This is mine." Back home, her boss called her into his office with a grin. "Senior Director, Em. Comes with a $20,000 raise. You've earned it." She'd smiled, genuine, not forced, and started turning her guest room into a home office, complete with a desk facing the Puget Sound view. Money wasn't the only thing she reclaimed. Time was hers too. She joined a hiking group, trading late-night budget checks for Saturday treks up Mount C, her lungs burning with clean air and her phone blissfully free of guilt trip texts. At a post-hike coffee meetup, she'd met Ryan, a quiet architect with a dry wit and a love for sci-fi novels. 3 dates in, he'd cooked her salmon in his tiny Belltown apartment, and she'd laughed harder than she had in years. "I used to think family was everything," she told him one night, staring at the city lights from his balcony. "Now I know I'm enough." Word of her family's unraveling trickled in through her Aunt Karen, the only relative who still called. Over a crackly phone line one rainy Sunday, Karen spilled the update. Your mom's waitressing at that diner off 405, morning shifts, bad tips. Tom's at Home Depot 6 days a week, hauling lumber like he's 40 again. They're barely scraping by. Emily stirred her coffee, the steam curling up. What about the house? She asked, voice neutral. Mortgage is killing them, Karen said. They've burned through their 401, trying to keep it. Banks circling. And the twins? Emily pressed, though she could guess. Karen sighed. Ethan got a gig at Best Buy, quit after a month because the manager sucked. Chloe's babysitting here and there, spends her days filming TikToks for a lifestyle brand that's still just her in yoga pants. Emily smirked, picturing it. Ethan sulking, Chloe pouting into a ring light. They're not helping Mom and Dad. Not a dime, Karen said. Your folks still blame you, though. Linda tells everyone you abandoned them when they needed you most. Emily set her mug down, staring out at the sound. The accusation didn't sting anymore. It just sounded pathetic. They needed me most when I was their bank, she said. Now they're mad I closed the account. Karen chuckled, a rare sound. You're not wrong, kid. How you holding up? Better than ever, Emily replied, and she meant it. The evidence was everywhere. Her savings hit $15,000, enough for a down payment on a rental property she'd been eyeing in Capitol Hill. She'd booked a spring trip to Japan, cherry blossoms, ramen, a bullet train to Kyoto. Her hiking group had become friends, real ones who texted memes instead of sob stories. Ryan had started leaving a toothbrush at her place, a small thing that felt big. For the first time since she was 18, scrambling to escape Renton, her life was hers. Money, time, future, all of it. She thought about that dinner 6 months back, the casserole, the will, the smirks. It wasn't the house or the cabin she'd wanted. It was the respect, the acknowledgement that her sacrifices mattered. Instead, they'd fed her pie and betrayal, expecting her to swallow both. Cutting them off hadn't been easy. Those first weeks, guilt gnawed at her, whispering, "They're your parents." But every call she ignored, every dollar she kept, chipped away at it, until only clarity remained. I was their safety net, she told Ryan one night. They didn't build their own. A month ago, she'd posted on Instagram, not her usual style, but she'd needed to vent. A photo of her new office captioned, 4 years, $175,000 given to family, and they left me nothing. Stopped paying their bills, got called selfish. Now I'm free. Sometimes you have to choose yourself. It blew up. Hundreds of likes, comments, split down the middle. Good for you, girl, clashed with, they're still your family. Help them. She read them all, nodding at the support, shrugging at the judgment. People see what they want, she told herself. Standing on her balcony now, the rain a soft patter, Emily sipped a glass of Cabernet, the cheap stuff this time because she could. The city glowed below, a patchwork of lives she didn't have to carry. Karen's words echoed. They blame you. Let them. Linda could sling hash browns, Tom could stack 2x4s. Ethan and Chloe could TikTok their way to nowhere. Emily had a raise, a trip, a man who didn't ask for her paycheck. She'd built this brick by brick, dollar by dollar, and no one could take it away. She turned to the empty air, imagining a camera there, like she was recording this for the world. If you were me, she said, voice steady, would you go back to help them after all they've done, or would you keep walking forward like I have? I chose my future. What would you choose? The rain answered with a whisper, and Emily smiled, stepping inside to plan her next adventure.